All right, before I get into the meat of this video, I want to take care of a few items of house cleaning. Got to address a couple points here. Um, Number one, Minka Fitzpatrick. I made a video about him, so I got to follow up here. He did get traded, not to the Seahawks. He went to the Steelers, first round pick, and they swapped some late round stuff. Little disappointed that it didn't work out because I was reading Twitter on Monday and it really sounded like we were right there at the end trying to get this guy, that we were one of the finalists. But at the same time, we were not going to top Pittsburgh's offer because Pittsburgh basically traded their first round pick. I there's just no way around it. We can't top Pittsburgh's first round pick realistically because right now the Steelers' first round pick looks juicy. It looks way more appetizing than our first round pick because they're 0-2. They just lost their quarterback. They're playing in an improved division. It's just a juicy first round pick, and we're 2-0, and we're healthy. If anything, we're getting healthier compared to the start of the season. We're getting Anza. We're going to get Reed in 4 games. It just, we can't compete with that offer. So the only way we could have topped the Steelers' first round pick would have been to say, okay, here's our first round pick, our second round pick, and probably more. And I wasn't willing to do that. So, sometimes you get outbid and you got to be able to walk away from it. So I'm good with it. That's number one. Number two, because I know I'm going to get asked about it in the comments if I don't address it, Jalen Ramsey. I truly don't think this is worth talking about, really, but somebody's going to ask if I don't say something. So I don't see it, and I think most Seahawks fans don't see it, and I kind of don't want to see it. Jalen Ramsey's going to cost at least a first and a second round pick or an equivalent. Probably 2 first round picks, in my opinion, because he's that good. And not only do you have to trade for him, you then have to give him a monster contract. Jalen Ramsey could be due a $70-80 million extension. If you thought Richard Sherman got a big deal after we won the Super Bowl, you don't know what a big deal is, because Jalen Ramsey, I'm not just saying this as a hater, he is better than Richard Sherman. Jalen Ramsey at his best is a generational cornerback talent. Sherman's close, but I think it's clear. And with the cap going up, he's going to get a monster deal. And I don't really want to be the team that gives him a monster deal. We got enough monster deals on our own roster, and I don't know if he solves our problems. And quite frankly, I don't. If you're going to have a guy like Pete Carroll, who the good thing about Pete Carroll is he knows how to get great cornerbacks with marginal and, in some cases, practically no draft capital. So why not just leverage that? We don't need to spend a bunch of picks on one guy. So that's the Jalen Ramsey thing. Number 3, I'm just going to float it out there because it's way too perfect for me to ignore, even though I don't think it's going to happen. Jamal Adams of the Jets. There was a little bit of grumbling this morning that he might want out of New York, just like Minka wanted out of Miami. And look, it blew over quick. Like 30 minutes after the rumor got tweeted, people came out and said, "Oh no, he's happy in New York. He's fine in New York. He no problems here. He was misinterpreted. Blah 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 blah. People misunderstood him. Whatever." But for that half hour where it really looked like Jamal Adams wanted out, I was like, that might be the perfect fit because look, Jamal Adams, he's young. This is his 3rd year in the NFL. He's 23. He's got 2 more years of club control on that rookie deal. And I think he has the 5th-year option in his contract. I can't remember if he was a first-round pick or not. But, he's already made a Pro Bowl. He has proven even more than Minka was. I liked Minka. Minka had a good rookie season. I thought he had proven some stuff in the NFL. Jamal Adams has proven way more. He's a great strong safety. If we got him, we could move, McDougal to free safety and probably, get a lot better on the back end. And he would immediately just be a hard-hitting strong safety in the vein of Cam Chancellor. And probably not as good as Cam because he's not as big, but he could have been like that. And for that half hour, I was like, first rounder plus For Jamal Adams, I would have to think about it, because I think he's really, really good. I think he's proven himself in a way that even Minka hasn't. I think that he's one of the best young safeties in the league, and if a dude like that wants out of New York because he's sick of losing, and the Jets are obviously going to do nothing but lose this year because Darnold's hurt, and they're playing, random people that very few people have even heard of at quarterback now, and, all the other problems they're having. That's something we need to seriously look at and really think about. Do we want to give up some serious draft capital for a safety? And look, again, there's the Pete Carroll factor. You want to trust him to go turn a 5th-round pick into a stud, but we would have to think about that because he's that good. And it's not like our safety luck has been golden, I understand that Pete Carroll has shit gold in the last 7-8 years at cornerback. Safety, I mean, Cam Chancellor was, obviously a huge gold hit, but Earl Thomas was drafted with a blue chip pick. And there have been safeties that have come in and out of Seattle that didn't look like shit, honestly. So it's a little different. But I don't think he's getting traded. So if he goes on the block, I would take a very, very hard look at that, though. Okay, so it's Tuesday, and I'm trying to think of what to talk about. Last year, I tended to talk about big picture things with the Seahawks because early in the season, when I was making the Thursday videos, I didn't think the team was really going anywhere. We started the season bad. I just thought we were planning for the future. I thought last year was going to be a punt. Wasn't. We got it together. This year, I'm not really thinking like that. I'm thinking about how can we get better right now? Because right now we have a chance to make a playoff run. I mean, I haven't seen anything from the Rams that say that they're way better than us, that we can't close the gap between us and them to where we can actually beat them and win the division. I'm seeing good things from other teams in this conference for sure. I still am high on the Eagles. The Cowboys have figured out NFL offense in a way that makes me freaking jealous. There are certainly good teams in this conference, but I'm seeing a Seahawks team that should be able to compete with pretty much any of them, and I'm trying to figure out how we can best capitalize. So, getting better mid-season is not always an easy thing, but needs to be discussed. So I'm going to talk about the one thing on this team that I'm disturbed by, that I really think is a pulsating problem, and that if we don't address it, it's gonna sink us in some of these games. It might sink this season by the end of it. So I'm not worried about the offensive line. I think that 4 of our 5 offensive linemen are going to be fine. The only guy who I'm concerned about is Fetty, and you can hide him. You can replace him with Fant. So I'm not worried about the offensive line. Fluker had a bad game, but he's not a bad player. I'm not worried about Carson fumbling. If Carson keeps fumbling, he just won't play, and then we'll have Penny out there. And as I controversially said in my last video, I don't think running backs matter very much, so I don't think we lose anything going from Carson to Penny. I don't think we lose very much if it's, Travis Homer or CJ Prosise getting those carries. I'm not worried about the pass rush. I think that nobody should be. We're getting Reed back. Clowney's going to get into game shape. We're going to get Anza back supposedly this week. So I'm not worried about any of that. But the one thing that is really bugging me about this team, what they're doing through the first couple of weeks, what I don't get is what are we doing at nickel cornerback? I've already talked about this a few times in previous videos, but I want to really just lay it all out there so you guys can see why I'm concerned. So we got Shaquille Griffin. We all like him. He's played really well the first 2 games. Good bounce back season so far from Shaquille. Trey Flowers, he struggled in week 1, better in week 2. He's fine. He's way ahead of where he should be right now, all things considered. We are getting way more out of Trey than we ever expected, even if he can just stay on the field and not get completely destroyed. But that nickel cornerback spot, and let me establish my fear. Week 1, let me clarify this. Week 1 against the Bengals lined up in 3 or 4 wide receiver sets 73% of the time. I had to do some digging to find that. But the Bengals had 3 wide receivers or 4 wide receivers on the field on 73% of their offensive snaps. 3 out of 4 plays almost. Now, in week 1, our nickelback was effectively Ugo Amadi. He was the only non-starting defensive back to get a significant number of snaps. And Amadi was on the field for 27% of our defensive plays. So basically, on about 45% of the Bengals' offensive plays against us on week 1, they had three wide receivers against 2 cornerbacks, which meant Kendricks or KJ Wright was guarding a wide receiver man on man, or at least at the line of scrimmage. Akeem King played in 1 play on in that game, and I assume it was against a 4 wide receiver set playing the dime. So that's a big problem, guys. And the Bengals do not even have good wide receivers. They're missing their guy. AJ Green is out. And after him, John Ross is having a great start to the season, so maybe he's figuring it out. But after John Ross, it's pretty thin. And they torched us, mostly because they were exploiting our mismatches where we had, Michael Kendricks trying to guard John Ross. So I was really hoping on Sunday I would see something better. And I can't complain too much because it didn't kill us. But by my count, the Steelers lined up in 3 or 4 wide receiver sets 71% of the time. And our nickelback this week was Jamar Taylor. We picked him up off free agency midweek. He was on the field for 33% of the snaps. And then Akeem King was on the field for 4 wide receiver sets. So he was basically playing dime back. Whenever they had 4 wide receivers, I think we had Akeem King out there covering the 4th wide receiver. So we did play dime when they went 4 wide receiver. But what that basically means is that on approximately 38% of the Steelers' offensive sets, they had 3 wide receivers, and we had 2 cornerbacks. And that's how you ended up with KJ Wright guarding Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, Pittsburgh didn't kill us. Like I said, Pittsburgh struggled on offense. Some of that might have had to do with losing their quarterback. Some of that might have had to do with, frankly, their receivers are not very good. Juju might have been overhyped coming into this season, but he's, their one really good guy. And after that, it's like, Ryan Switzer and Dante Moncrief, who shouldn't even be on a team. I don't, James Washington, I think, it's just not good. They have a talent deficiency at wide receiver, so they couldn't take full advantage of us playing 3 linebackers against 3 wide receivers. But even still, you saw them get some easy plays where they just threw it to Juju with KJ Wright trying to cover him, and that's just never going to work. So I'm kind of concerned now. What are we going to do to address this? Because, look, the Bengals, their wide receivers aren't very good. The Steelers, their wide receivers aren't very good either. Their wide receivers might be bad. The Saints, maybe we're going to get away with it again because they don't have a quarterback who can really get them the ball. They don't go very deep at wide receiver unless they have Breeze playing. So we're getting a bit of a gift there. But eventually, we are going to play teams like the Arizona Cardinals who go 4 wide constantly. They pretty much never have less than 3 wide receivers on the field. We're going to play the Rams, and we know how they use their 3 wide receiver sets. And they got 3 good receivers with Woods, I think Brandon Cooks. Do they still have Brandon Cooks? I think they do. And Cooper Kupp. We're going to play teams with good wide receivers, and almost all these teams play 3 wide receiver constantly. Even the teams we play that don't have great wide receivers, they're still going to go 3 wide. And, I can tell you right now, we play Arizona in a few weeks. If we actually trot out a base defense against their 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, I will parachute through the hole in the stadium down in Arizona and kick the living crap out of Ken Norton Jr. But I digress. So what are we doing? Um, Jamar Taylor, he's certainly not anything special. He played okay against Pittsburgh, but there's a reason why he didn't make the active roster until we had an immediate need of somebody. Ugo Amadi is a rookie. We obviously don't expect the world of him. Akeem King seems pretty well locked into just being a dime back. Just go out there when there are four wide receiver sets, and we don't seem to really want to test him at nickel. And there's not much else, so I went a little bit. I dug down a little bit into the cornerback free agency pool, and I found some names that I am not crazy about, but beggars cannot be choosers, so we might want to take a look at some of these guys right here because I don't get the sense that we trust the guys on the roster, and maybe one of these guys could give us a stopgap until Amadi is ready, or until Taylor is ready, or Akeem King, or whoever. At the very least, it could buy us some time. So, number one name is EJ Gaines. He was on the Rams for a couple years. He played pretty good, and he bounced around the league the last couple years. Can't stay healthy. He's had, groin injuries and Achilles and leg and knee and a lot of shit happening to him over the last few years, but he's still young. So to me, there's a little bit of talent there. He was drafted. He did immediately become I think, nickel cornerback in the NFL for the Rams when he first got there. And I see a little something there. I want to kick the tires. Is he healthy yet? He might not be healthy yet. He did have a contract with Buffalo this offseason, and they cut him after an injury settlement because he wasn't ready to play. So I don't know if he's ready to play yet, but we got to take a look there. Next name here, Brian Boddy-Calhoun. This guy had a nice rookie season with the Cleveland Browns in 2016. Had 3 picks. He had a pick 6, made some plays, and then he just couldn't stay healthy. I think he floated to maybe Houston for a little bit, and they didn't keep him around for very long. But there's a little bit of talent there. He's still very young, and it's just a question of health. Can he stay on the field? And the third guy I have here is kind of in the same boat, Kayvon Webster. This guy might be my favorite of all the options here. He's young. He was drafted by the Broncos of maybe 5 years ago. He's fast. He runs like a 4.33 40. He is lightning fast. He's got some pedigree. He played with the Denver defense that won the Super Bowl a few years ago, and he has had problems staying healthy lately. Currently not on an NFL roster. Those are some tires I would like to kick. So these 3 guys are basically, young guys you take a chance on. These are 3 guys. They're young. They've made some plays in the NFL. They can't stay healthy. And because of health issues mainly, they find themselves not on a roster. But I feel like there's something there. These guys are talented. And the next 2 guys are basically your veteran options. If you want to go get somebody who has played in the NFL for a long time, has proven themselves to be pretty good, and might still have a little something left, you can consider it. I think both these guys are done. I honestly do, especially Brent Grimes, but both these guys have been capable NFL players for a long time. And it wasn't that long ago that they were still contributing on NFL rosters. It's not ridiculous to say they can give us a year. But Orlando Scandrick was a Cowboy for 10 years, solid nickel cornerback for them. I think he might have played a little bit of safety. I can't remember. But he was a solid defensive back for them for quite some time. And I think he was on Washington and Philadelphia for a little bit. But he's also had health issues, as a lot of these guys do. It's hard to stay healthy when you play a physical cornerback in the NFL, I guess. But he's a veteran presence that might be welcome. And Brent Grimes he's been around forever. He's like 34. I'm inclined to believe he doesn't have very much left. He was never that fast, and at this point he's probably, really slow. So I'm not crazy about those, but if the alternative is to just play 3 linebackers against 3 wide receivers, I'm willing to give anybody a try. And the one name I didn't list here that some people are going to want to throw out there would be Deshaun Shedd. But my thing is, I feel like Deshaun Shedd, there's something really wrong with him because He made a couple big plays in the preseason. He's familiar with the defense. He's been here before. The fans like him, and we still cut him. And we're not even, as far as I know, we're not even looking at picking him back up, even though we have a problem at cornerback right now, and we don't know what we're doing at nickelback. So that tells me that Shed either, and if you watch the second preseason game, you will see this. Shed, he made big plays in the preseason, but he got beat a lot. He gave up a lot of catches. And I think that we valued that over the safety and the pick six. And if not that, maybe it's just we don't want him to be a nickelback, which I understand. He's not that quick. And if we play him at, left cornerback, Trey Flowers isn't really a prototypical nickelback either. So I feel like Shed doesn't really solve our problems. I know a lot of people are going to throw out that name. I'm probably going to get him in the comments, but Shed would be cool, but I don't believe he fixes the problem, so I can't really get behind that. But that's what I got this week, guys. I feel like I'm gonna let the safety thing play out now. Last week I got on the Seahawks, and because I wanted them to improve its safety. Delano Hill played pretty good against Pittsburgh, so I'm gonna give him a chance to show that he's improved. And a month from now, maybe I'll be like, okay, he can be the starter for the rest of the year. Now I'm looking at that nickelback spot because we're not getting Minka. I don't think we're getting Jamal Adams, not that he would solve the nickelback problem anyway. And I think that we need to figure out what we're doing here quick. Because like I said, if we come into Arizona with that 3 linebacker base defense crap, they're going to kill us. We're going to give up 800 passing yards to Kyler Murray if we try to trot 3 linebackers out there against that air raid offense. And I'm going to lose my mind if that's actually the shit that we're going to bring. All right, long video, but see you guys later. Go Hawks. Pre-game video coming up probably Friday. And yeah, that's what I got.